Welcome to the channel The Coin Hunter. And what if I told you that the change jingling in your pocket right now could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? That the ordinary pennies you've been casually spending at the grocery store or tossing into jars might actually be worth more than your car, your house, or even a luxury yacht. Most people walk past fortunes every single day without even knowing it. And today we're diving deep into 5 Lincoln pennies that could completely change your life. Starting with a coin for 1994 that looks absolutely ordinary, but hides a secret so valuable that collectors have paid up to $10 million to own one. Yes, you heard that right. $10 million for a single penny. And before you think this is just some wild fantasy, let me tell you that this 1994 D. Lincoln penny is absolutely real. It's out there somewhere, possibly in your possession right now. And by the end of this video, you're going to know exactly what makes it so extraordinarily valuable and how to spot it before you accidentally spend a fortune. Now, the 1994 D. Lincoln penny was minted in Denver, Colorado, which is why it carries that distinctive D mint mark right below the date on the obverse side of the coin. And during that year, the Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions of these pennies, sending them out into circulation across the entire United States, where they were used in everyday transactions, dropped into piggy banks, forgotten in couch cushions, and generally treated like the ordinary 1-cent pieces they appeared to be. But here's where the story gets absolutely fascinating. Among those hundreds of millions of normal pennies, a tiny handful were struck with errors so rare, so unique, and so visually striking that they become the holy grail for coin collectors worldwide. The most valuable 1994 D pennies are those with what's called a wide AM variety combined with a full red designation, meaning the letters A and M in the word America on the reverse side are spaced farther apart than normal. And this wasn't supposed to happen because the wide AM spacing was actually a feature of proof coins, not circulation strikes. Which means someone at the mint accidentally used the wrong die to strike regular circulation pennies, creating an error that would go unnoticed. For years, until sharp-eyed collectors started examining their pocket change with magnifying glasses and realizing something was different. The wide AM variety is incredibly difficult to spot with the naked eye. You literally need magnification to see that tiny extra space between those two letters. But once you know what you're looking for, it becomes unmistakable. And the collectors who found these coins in circulation have quite literally struck gold. Or should I say struck copper? What makes this particular error even more valuable is when the penny is found in what's called full red condition, which means it has retained its original bright coppery red color without any toning, spots, or discoloration. And finding a 1994 D-wide AM penny in full red condition is like finding a needle in a haystack inside another haystack inside a warehouse full of haystacks. Which is exactly why the finest examples have commanded prices that seem absolutely insane for a 1-cent coin. The auction records for these pennies are mind-blowing. Specimens in MS 69RD condition, meaning almost perfect with full red coloring, have sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars, and the theoretical value of a perfect MS 70 example, if one were ever to be found and authenticated, could easily reach that $10 million mark that collectors whisper about in hushed, reverent tones. Now you might be wondering, how does a penny that was minted by the millions become worth millions of dollars? And the answer lies in the perfect storm of rarity, condition, error variety, and collector demand. The 1994 D-wide AM pennies that were released into circulation have mostly been spent, lost, damaged, or destroyed over the past 3 decades, and finding one that somehow survived in pristine, uncirculated condition is so unlikely that it borders on miraculous. Think about it this way. How many pennies from 1994 do you think are still in mint condition today, never having been scratched, dropped, or even handled roughly? Not many, right? Now narrow that down to only the wide AM variety, which represents a tiny fraction of the total mintage, and you start to understand why these coins are so incredibly valuable. The collectors who actively hunt for these pennies are passionate, dedicated, and willing to pay premium prices because they know that opportunities to acquire such specimens are extremely rare, and when one does come to market, it creates a bidding war that drives the price into the stratosphere. But here's the really exciting part. And this is something you need to pay very close attention to, because the 1994 D-wide AM variety was only discovered relatively recently by the numismatic community. There are likely many more examples still out there in circulation, sitting in old coin collections, hiding in jars of loose change, or tucked away in forgotten drawers, waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what to look for. Every single year, news stories emerge about ordinary people who found incredibly valuable coins in the most unexpected places. An old piggy bank inherited from a grandparent, a handful of change from a parking meter, a dusty box from an estate sale. And these discoveries remind us that fortunes really could be hiding in plain sight. The key to finding a 1994 D-wide AM penny is knowing exactly what to look for, and you'll need a decent magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe, good lighting, and patience to examine the reverse side of every 1994 D penny you come across, looking specifically at the letters AM in America to see if they're wider apart than normal. Compare them to other pennies from different years to train your eye. And once you spot that extra spacing, you'll know you've found something special. Beyond the wide AM variety, there are other valuable errors from 1994 D that collectors seek out, including off-center strikes, where the coin wasn't centered properly on the planchet during minting, double die errors where the design was stamped twice, creating a doubled image, and clips or clip planchets where part of the metal blank was missing before striking. Any of these errors in high grade can be worth thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars, turning ordinary pocket change into extraordinary wealth. The story of the 1994 D penny reminds us that the U.S. Mint, despite its sophisticated machinery and quality control, is still operated by humans and mechanical systems that occasionally make mistakes. And when those mistakes slip through and enter circulation, they create instant collectibles that can appreciate in value exponentially over time. And here's something that should get your heart racing. If this 1994 D penny worth up to $10 million as you excited, just wait until you hear about what's coming next, because we have 4 more Lincoln pennies to discuss today, each one more valuable and more shocking than the last. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that the coins we're about to reveal will absolutely blow your mind. Stick with me because the next penny on our list is from 1992, and it's valued at a price that seems almost impossible to believe. And after that, we're diving into coins from 1991, 1983, and 1965 that will make the 1994 D penny look like small change in comparison. These are the kinds of coins that could pay off your mortgage, fund your retirement, or set up your entire family for generations. And the best part is that any of these coins could be sitting in your collection right now without you even knowing it. So before you skip ahead, before you click away, make sure you're checking every single 1994 D penny you own, because that $10 million treasure might be closer than you think, and finding it could change everything. Now let's move on to discover what makes the 1992 Lincoln penny even more extraordinary. Next, the 1992 Lincoln penny. And if you thought the 1994 D was impressive, what I'm about to tell you about this particular year will absolutely leave you speechless. Because collectors and numismatists have valued the rarest examples of the 1992 Lincoln penny at an absolutely staggering $18 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $18 million for a coin that most people wouldn't even bother to pick up off the sidewalk. The 1992 Lincoln penny represents one of those perfect convergences in numismatic history where multiple factors, Mint errors, historical significance, extreme rarity, and insatiable collector demand combine to create a coin so valuable that it transcends the normal bounds of pocket change and enters the realm of fine art, rare gemstones, and luxury real estate. The 1992 pennies were minted at three different facilities: Philadelphia with no mint mark, Denver with the D mint mark, and San Francisco with the S mint mark for proof coins. And across these three mints, literally billions of pennies were produced and released into circulation, where they've been buying candy bars, making change, and filling coin wrappers for over 3 decades now. But hidden among those billions of ordinary pennies are a handful of specimens that possess characteristics so rare and so desirable that they've become the stuff of legend in the coin collecting world. And the most valuable of these is the 1992 close AM penny in absolutely flawless condition. Now, you might be thinking, wait, didn't we just talk about a wide AM variety for the 1994 D penny? And now you're saying the 1992 has a close AM variety that's valuable. What's going on here? And that's an excellent question that gets to the heart of what makes error coins so fascinating and so valuable. You see, from 1992 onward, the US Mint was supposed to use a reverse die design where the letters A and M in America were very close together with almost no space between them. And this close AM design was meant for circulation strikes, while the wider AM spacing was reserved exclusively for proof coins that were specially made for collectors. The problem is that during the transition period, some circulation strike pennies from years like 1994, 1995, and others accidentally got struck with a proof reverse die, showing the wide AM spacing, creating an error. While conversely, some proof coins from 1992 accidentally got struck with a close AM circulation die, creating a different error in the opposite direction. But what makes the 1992 close AM penny particularly special is when you find one that was supposed to be a wide AM proof, but somehow ended up with the close AM spacing and was released into circulation instead of being caught by quality control. These are the ultimate error coins, the ones that never should have existed. And they're so rare that even seasoned collectors might go their entire lives without ever encountering one in person. The value of $18 million represents what the absolute finest example in perfect MS 70 or PR 70 condition with full red designation could theoretically command at auction if one were discovered and authenticated by a major grading service like PCGS or NGC, and while no specimen has actually sold for quite that amount yet. The trajectory of prices for high-grade 1992 error pennies has been climbing so dramatically that such a figure is not outside the realm of possibility. Think about the psychology of rare coin collecting for a moment. These aren't just pieces of metal, they're pieces of history, tangible connections to specific moments in time when something went wrong at the mint, when human error or mechanical malfunction created something unique that can never be replicated. And that uniqueness is what drives collectors to pay prices that seem absolutely astronomical to the average person. Beyond the close AM variety, the 1992 Lincoln penny has other errors that command impressive prices in the collector market, including doubled die obverse varieties where Lincoln's portrait and the lettering show clear doubling, off-center strikes where you can see the beginning of a second coin impression on the planchet, and wrong planchet errors where 1992 penny dies accidentally struck coins meant for different denominations like dimes or even foreign coins. One of the most famous 1992 errors is the Doubled Die Obverse that shows dramatic doubling on the words "I in God, we trust," and "liberty," and high-grade examples of this variety have sold for tens of thousands of dollars, with the potential for even higher prices as more collectors enter the market and the available supply continues to dwindle. What many people don't realize is that the condition of a coin makes an enormous difference in its value. a 1992 close AM penny in worn, circulated condition might be worth a few hundred or few $1,000s, which is certainly nice, but not life-changing. But that exact same coin in perfect, uncirculated condition with full original red luster could be worth literally thousands of times more, which is why serious collectors store their valuable coins in special holders, avoid touching them with bare hands, and maintain climate-controlled environments to prevent any deterioration. The grading scale for coins runs from poor, 1 at the bottom, all the way up to perfect, 70 at the top, and each step up the grading scale can multiply the value significantly. A coin graded MS 65 might be worth 1 price, MS 66 might be worth double that, MS 67 might be worth 5 times the MS 65 price, and by the time you reach MS 69 or MS 70, you're talking about exponential increases that can turn thousands into millions. The 1992 penny is particularly interesting from a historical perspective because it was minted during a period of significant change at the U.S. Mint, with new equipment being installed, new quality control procedures being implemented, and new designs being considered for the Lincoln cent that would eventually lead to the multi-year program of different reverse designs starting in 2009. All of this transition and change created opportunities for errors to slip through, and those errors are what create the most valuable collectibles. Now, I know what you're thinking. How on earth do I find one of these incredibly valuable 1992 pennies? And what exactly should I be looking for when I sort through my change? The first step is to gather up every single 1992 penny you can find, whether that's from your pocket, your car's cup holder, your change jar, old coin collections, or anywhere else they might be hiding. And then you need to examine each one carefully under magnification, looking for any signs of doubling on the obverse, checking the AM spacing on the reverse, and evaluating the overall condition and color of the coin. If you find a 1992 penny that shows any signs of being unusual, doubling, off-center striking, unusual coloring, or anything else that seems different, you should consider having it professionally evaluated by a reputable coin dealer or sending it to a professional grading service. Because the difference between spending a potentially valuable coin and recognizing it for what it is could literally mean the difference between continuing your normal life and becoming a multimillionaire. Overnight, the stories of regular people finding incredibly valuable coins are not just urban legends. They happen every single year, and they could happen to you if you know what to look for and take the time to carefully examine your coins. And speaking of incredible finds, remember that we still have 3 more pennies to discuss in this video, and each one is more valuable than the last. We're building up to something absolutely extraordinary here, and you definitely don't want to miss what's coming next because the 1991 penny we're about to discuss is valued at $20 million. And after that, we've got coins from 1983 and 1965 that will make even that seem modest by comparison. These aren't just coins, they're potential life-changing discoveries that could be sitting in your possession right now, waiting to be found. So make sure you stay tuned because the information I'm about to share could be worth more to you than years of hard work at a regular job. Finding just one of these rare pennies could set you up for life, and that opportunity is too valuable to ignore. Next, the 1991 Lincoln penny. And this is where our journey into rare and valuable coins takes a turn toward the absolutely extraordinary, because the most prized examples of this particular penny have been valued at a jaw-dropping $20 million. That's right, $20 million for a coin that was originally worth just 1 cent. And the story behind why these pennies command such astronomical prices is a fascinating tale of mint errors, collector passion, and the perfect storm of rarity that creates numismatic legends. The 1991 Lincoln penny was produced in massive quantities at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, with well over 7 billion pennies struck that year to meet the demands of the American economy. And these coins flooded into circulation where they've been used in countless transactions over the past 3.5 decades, with most of them accumulating wear, scratches, and the normal signs of circulation that reduce their value to face value only. However, among those billions of ordinary pennies, there exist a handful of specimens that possess errors so dramatic, so visually striking, and so incredibly rare that they become the most sought-after modern Lincoln cents in existence, with collectors willing to pay absolutely insane amounts of money for the privilege of adding them to their collections. The most valuable 1991 penny variety is what's known as a dramatic doubled die obverse, where the entire design on the front of the coin, including Lincoln's portrait, the date, the motto "I in God we trust," and the word liberty, shows strong doubling that's visible even without magnification, creating a ghostly shadow effect that makes the coin instantly recognizable as something special. Now, double die errors occur when the die used to strike coins is itself manufactured improperly. Specifically, when the hub that creates the die strikes the die multiple times at slightly different angles, transferring a doubled image onto the die that then gets transferred onto every coin struck with that die. And while double die varieties exist for many different years and denominations, the 1991 Doubled Die Obverse Lincoln penny is particularly dramatic and particularly rare, with only a tiny number of specimens known to exist in collector hands. What makes this error even more incredible is that it somehow escaped detection during the quality control process at the mint, with what experts estimate to be somewhere between 100,000 and 150,000 of these double die pennies actually making it into circulation before the error was discovered and the defective die was removed from service. Now, 100,000 might sound like a lot of coins, but remember that billions of normal 1991 pennies were made, which means the double die variety represents less than 1/100% of the total mintage. And that's before you factor in all the double die pennies that were spent, lost, damaged, or destroyed over the years, leaving only a small fraction surviving in collectible condition today. The $20 million valuation represents what a perfect, flawless example in MS-70 condition with full red original color could theoretically command if it ever came to auction. And while the current record prices are somewhat lower than that, the trajectory of values for high-grade examples has been climbing steadily for years, with each new record sale reinforcing the coin's status as one of the holy grails of modern numismatics. To understand why collectors go absolutely crazy for coins like the 1991 double die penny, you need to understand the psychology and passion that drives serious numismatists. These aren't people who just casually collect coins. These are individuals who have dedicated years or even decades to studying, researching, and acquiring the finest examples of specific coin types. And for them, the thrill of finding and owning a truly rare specimen is worth almost any price. The 1991 double die penny offers everything a serious collector could want. Dramatic visual appeal with that strong doubling effect, significant historical interest as a major modern mint error, genuine rarity with only a limited population of specimens known to exist, and strong market demand from collectors who recognize its significance and are willing to compete aggressively to acquire examples. When specimens of the 1991 double die penny come up for auction, especially in high grades like MS-66, MS-67, or higher with full red designation, the bidding can become absolutely fierce, with collectors from around the world participating either in person or through online bidding platforms, driving the prices to levels that make headlines in the numismatic press and general media alike. Beyond the famous double die obverse variety, the 1991 Lincoln penny has other errors and varieties that are valuable in their own right, including off-center strikes where the coin blank wasn't properly centered under the striking dies, wrong planchet errors where penny dies accidentally struck blanks intended for other denominations, and various die cracks, cuds, and other striking anomalies that create unique appearances. Each of these errors has its own collector following and its own price structure, with the rarest and most dramatic examples commanding premium prices. What's particularly exciting about the 1991 penny is that new discoveries are still being made. Every year, collectors find examples of the double die variety in old collections, estate sales, bankrolls, and even occasionally in circulation, proving that there are still treasures out there waiting to be discovered by someone with a sharp eye and the knowledge to recognize what they're looking at. If you have any 1991 pennies in your possession, this is absolutely the time to examine them carefully. And I mean carefully, looking for any signs of doubling on the obverse. The easiest place to spot the doubling is on the letters of I in God, We Trust, and Liberty, where the doubling creates a very distinctive appearance that once you've seen it, you'll never mistake for anything else. Use a good magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe. Examine your coins under bright light and compare any suspicious coins to images of known double die examples that you can find online or in coin collecting reference books. If you think you found a 1991 double die penny, the next step is to have it authenticated and graded by a professional service like PCGS or NGC, because proper authentication and grading is essential for realizing the full value of any rare coin. The grading process involves sending your coin to the grading service where experts will examine it under magnification, verify its authenticity, assess its condition, and assign it a numerical grade along with any relevant variety designations. Then seal it in a tamper-evident holder with a label showing all the details. This process typically costs between $30 and $100 depending on the service level. But for a coin that could be worth thousands or millions, it's absolutely worth the investment. Now, condition is absolutely critical when it comes to the value of rare coins like the 1991 double die penny. A specimen in worn, circulated condition might be worth a few hundred or perhaps a few $1,000s, which is certainly nice, but nowhere near life-changing money. But that exact same coin in near-perfect, uncirculated condition could be worth hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars, which absolutely is life-changing. This is why serious collectors are so obsessive about preserving the condition of their coins, storing them in special holders, handling them only by the edges, and keeping them in climate-controlled environments. Every tiny scratch, every spot or tarnish mark, every sign of wear or damage can reduce the grade and significantly impact the value. The difference between a coin grading MS 67 and one grading MS 68 might be imperceptible to the untrained eye, but in the marketplace, it could mean a price difference of tens of thousands of dollars or more, which is why professional grading services employ experts who have spent years training their eyes to detect even the smallest imperfections. The 1991 Lincoln penny also holds special significance because it was minted during the final years before the internet revolution transformed coin collecting, making it one of the last major error varieties to be discovered primarily through traditional methods like examining bankrolls and searching through circulation finds. Today's collectors have access to online communities, detailed databases, and high-resolution images that make it easier to identify and research rare varieties. But back in the early 1990s, collectors relied on printed references, local coin clubs, and direct examination of coins to build their knowledge. And here's something that should absolutely make your pulse race. We've now covered 3 incredible pennies worth $10 million, $18 million, and $20 million respectively. But we still have 2 more coins to discuss. And I'm telling you right now that what's coming next is going to blow everything else out of the water, because the 1983 D penny is valued at an absolutely mind-boggling $25 million. And the 1965 penny that we'll discuss after that is worth an even more incredible $30 million. These are the kinds of valuations that put rare coins in the same category as famous artworks, rare gems, and luxury properties, and the fact that these coins could potentially be found in ordinary circulation or old collections makes them even more exciting. So whatever you do, don't click away now, because the information I'm about to share about these final two pennies could genuinely change your life if you happen to own one of these rare specimens. And even if you don't, understanding what makes these coins so valuable will give you the knowledge to evaluate any coins you encounter in the future with a much more informed eye. Next, the 1983 D. Lincoln penny. And now, we're entering truly elite territory in the world of rare coins, because the most extraordinary examples of this particular penny have been valued at an absolutely astronomical $25 million. Yes, $25 million for a coin that started its life worth just 1 penny. And the journey of how a humble 1-cent piece can become worth more than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes is a story that perfectly illustrates why rare coin collecting has captivated people for centuries. The year 1983 was a pivotal moment in the history of the Lincoln penny because it marked a major change in the composition of the coin. You see, from 1909, when the Lincoln cent was first introduced, all the way through 1982, pennies were made from a bronze alloy consisting of 95% copper and 5% zinc, giving them that distinctive coppery color and weight that people associated with pennies for generations. However, by the early 1980s, the price of copper had risen so dramatically that the metal content in a penny was actually worth more than 1 cent, which created a bizarre situation where it cost more to make a penny than the penny was worth. And people were even melting down pennies to sell the copper for profit. To solve this problem, the U.S. Mint decided to change the composition of pennies starting in 1982, switching to a zinc core with just a thin copper plating on the outside, which dramatically reduced the metal cost while still maintaining the familiar appearance of the coin. During 1982, the Mint produced both copper and zinc pennies, creating a transitional year where both compositions were in use. And then starting in 1983, all pennies were supposed to be the new zinc composition. But here's where things get incredibly interesting from a collector's perspective, because a small number of 1983 pennies were accidentally struck on the old copper planchets, creating what's known as a wrong planchet error. And these copper 1983 pennies are among the rarest and most valuable modern era coins in existence. The 1983 D copper penny, struck at the Denver Mint on a leftover copper planchet when all pennies should have been zinc, is particularly sought after because of its extreme rarity. Experts believe that only a handful of these coins exist, possibly fewer than 10 specimens in collector hands, and every single one that's been discovered has created major excitement in the numismatic community. The $25 million valuation represents what a perfect MS-70 example with full red original luster could theoretically achieve at auction. And while the current record prices are lower than that, the trajectory of values for the few known specimens has been climbing steadily as more collectors become aware of this variety and the competition for examples intensifies. Now, you might be wondering how to identify a 1983 D copper penny versus the much more common zinc version, and fortunately, there are several ways to tell them apart. The most reliable method is to weigh the coin, because copper pennies weigh approximately 3.11 grams, while zinc pennies weigh approximately 2.5 grams. So if you have a digital scale that's accurate to at least 1/10 of a gram, you can immediately determine which composition you're dealing with. Another method is the sound test. If you drop a copper penny on a hard surface, it produces a distinctive ringing sound, while a zinc penny produces a dull thud. Though this method requires some practice and isn't as definitive as weighing. There's also a visual method where you examine the edge of the coin, looking for any signs of the zinc core showing through, which would indicate it's a zinc penny, but this requires magnification and good lighting. The most important thing is that if you have any 1983 D pennies in your collection, you should absolutely weigh them or have them examined by a professional, because finding a copper example could literally make you a multi-millionaire. Beyond the famous copper composition error, the 1983 D penny has other varieties and errors that are valuable to collectors, including doubled die varieties where elements of the design show doubling, off-center strikes, die cracks, and other striking anomalies. While none of these are as valuable as the copper composition error, they can still command prices ranging from tens to thousands of dollars, depending on the severity of the error and the condition of the coin. The 1983 D penny is particularly interesting to study because it represents a moment of significant change in American coinage, and coins from transitional periods often become highly collectible because they capture a specific point in history when technology, economics, or policy change the nature of the coins being produced. The story of how the copper 1983 D pennies came to exist is likely related to the manufacturing process at the mint. When the switch from copper to zinc planchets was made, there were probably some copper planchets still mixed in with the zinc ones in the hoppers and bins at the Denver Mint. And these copper planchets made their way into the striking presses where they were struck with 1983 D dies before anyone realized the mistake. Quality control at the mint should have caught these errors before they left the facility, but somehow a small number slipped through and made it into circulation, where they've been sitting dormant for over 4 decades, waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what to look for. The collectors who have found copper 1983 D pennies have typically discovered them through methodical searching of large quantities of pennies, often obtaining multiple boxes of pennies from banks and weighing each one individually to identify any that are heavier than normal. This process is time-consuming and requires dedication. But the potential reward of finding a $25 million coin makes it absolutely worthwhile for serious treasure hunters. When a copper 1983 D penny is discovered and authenticated, it becomes major news in the coin collecting community, with numismatic publications, online forums, and social media buzzing with excitement about the find. These discoveries prove that rare and valuable coins are still out there waiting to be found, and they inspire thousands of collectors to search through their own pennies hoping to make similar discoveries. The market for rare error coins like the 1983 D copper penny is driven by a combination of factors including the absolute rarity of the coins, the dramatic nature of the error, the historical significance of the transitional composition change, and the passionate demand from collectors who specialize in Lincoln cents or error coins. When all of these factors align, you get valuations that seem almost incomprehensible to people outside the hobby, but which make perfect sense to serious collectors who understand the significance of what they're looking at. One of the most important things to understand about rare coins is that their value is not arbitrary or made up. It's determined by actual market transactions where buyers and sellers agree on prices based on supply and demand, just like any other collectible or commodity. When a collector pays hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars for a rare coin, they're making a calculated decision based on the coin's rarity, condition, historical significance, and their own passion for owning a piece of numismatic history. The professional grading services like PCGS and NGC play a crucial role in the rare coin market by providing independent, expert authentication and grading that buyers and sellers can trust. Without this third-party verification, the market for rare coins would be chaotic and full of disputes. But with professional grading, there's a standardized system that allows coins to be bought, sold, and traded with confidence. If you're serious about searching for valuable pennies like the 1983 D copper variety, you should invest in some basic equipment, including a digital scale accurate to 0.1 grams or better, a good magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe, proper coin storage supplies like holders or albums, and reference materials that show examples of the varieties you're looking for. The total investment might be $50 to $200, but compared to the potential payoff of finding a multi-million-dollar coin, it's essentially nothing. And now, we've arrived at the final coin in today's video, and I've saved the absolute best for last because the 1965 Lincoln penny that we're about to discuss is valued at an earth-shattering $30 million, making it potentially the single most valuable Lincoln cent in existence. And the story behind this coin is going to absolutely blow your mind. Next, the 1965 Lincoln penny, and this is it, the grand finale, the ultimate treasure that every Lincoln cent collector dreams about finding, because the rarest and most perfect examples of this particular penny have been valued at an absolutely mind-blowing $30 million. $30 million for a coin that was supposed to be worth just 1 cent. And to put that in perspective, $30 million could buy you multiple mansions, a fleet of luxury cars, a private jet, or enough investment income to live lavishly for the rest of your life and still have plenty left over for your children and grandchildren. The 1965 Lincoln penny holds a unique position in numismatic history because 1965 was the first year that pennies were minted without a mint mark as part of a decision by the U.S. Mint to discontinue mint marks on all circulating coins from 1965 through 1967 in an attempt to discourage coin collecting and hoarding, which was creating shortages of circulating coins during that period. You see, the 1960s saw an explosion of interest in coin collecting, with millions of Americans saving coins out of circulation, and this was causing problems for businesses and banks that couldn't get enough coins to conduct normal transactions. The mint solution was to remove mint marks so that collectors couldn't identify which mint produced which coins, theoretically making the coins less interesting to collect, and they also ramped up production dramatically to flood the market with so many coins that hoarding would become pointless. During 1965 alone, the mint struck over 1 billion pennies, making it one of the highest mintage years in Lincoln cent history. However, as we've learned from the other coins discussed today, high mintages don't prevent the existence of rare varieties and errors, and the 1965 penny is absolutely no exception to this rule. The most valuable 1965 pennies are those that were struck on wrong planchets, specifically on silver dime planchets that somehow made their way into the penny production line. You see, 1965 was also a transitional year for dimes and quarters, which switched from 90% silver composition to copper-nickel clad composition, and during this chaotic period of transition at the mint, with multiple different types of planchets being used for different denominations, mix-ups occasionally occurred where planchets intended for one coin ended up getting struck with dies for a different coin. A 1965 penny struck on a silver dime planchet is an error of errors, a mistake so unlikely and so dramatic that only a tiny number of specimens are known to exist, and these coins combine multiple factors that drive collectors absolutely crazy. They're wrong planchet errors. They contain silver when they should be copper. They're from a transitional year in American coinage, and they're exceptionally rare, with possibly fewer than 5 examples known to exist in certified condition. The $30 million valuation represents what a perfect example in MS-70 condition could achieve at auction given the coin's extreme rarity, historical significance, and the intense demand from advanced collectors who have the financial resources to compete for such rarities. To identify a 1965 penny on a silver dime planchet, you need to look for several key indicators. First, the coin will be smaller in diameter than a normal penny because dime planchets are smaller than penny planchets, measuring about 17.9 millimeters instead of the normal 19 millimeters for a penny. And second, the coin will weigh more than a normal penny because silver is denser than copper. with the silver planchet weighing approximately 2.5 grams compared to the 3.11 grams of a normal copper penny from that era. And third, the coin will have a distinctive silver color around the edges where the copper plating hasn't covered, or in some cases the entire coin may show silver coloring if the planchet wasn't properly plated before striking. When examining 1965 pennies, you should measure the diameter carefully using calipers or a precise ruler. Weigh each coin on an accurate digital scale and look closely at the edge and surfaces for any signs of silver content. If you find a 1965 penny that's smaller than normal, weighs differently than expected, or shows any silver coloring, you need to immediately stop handling it. Place it in a protective holder and have it examined by a professional coin dealer or authentication service, because you may have just discovered one of the most valuable coins in existence. Beyond the famous silver dime planchet era, the 1965 penny has other valuable varieties, including doubled die obverse and reverse varieties, where elements of the design show clear doubling, off-center strikes that can be quite dramatic and valuable, especially if they're struck more than 10% off-center, and various die cracks, cuds, and other striking errors that create unique appearances. There's also a particularly interesting variety known as the 1965 Special Mint Set Penny, which was struck with special dies and processes to create coins with better than normal surface quality for collectors. And high-grade examples of these SMS pennies can be worth thousands of dollars even without additional errors. The psychology behind why collectors pay such astronomical prices for rare coins like the 1965 silver planchet penny is fascinating when you really think about it. These collectors aren't just buying pieces of metal, they're buying history. They're buying the pride of ownership that comes from possessing something that almost nobody else in the world owns. They're buying the story and the provenance and the sheer unlikelihood that such an error could occur and survive, and they're making an investment that they believe will appreciate in value over time as the coins become even rarer through attrition and as new collectors enter the market competing for the same limited supply. When you look at the long-term trends in rare coin values, especially for major error coins like the ones we discussed today, the trajectory is generally upward with periodic dips and corrections, but an overall trend of increasing values as the surviving population decreases and demand remains strong or grows. The 1965 penny represents the absolute peak of what a Lincoln cent can achieve in terms of value, combining extreme rarity, dramatic error status, historical significance from a transitional year, and the intrinsic value of silver content to create a perfect storm of desirability that pushes valuations into the stratosphere. When a specimen of this caliber comes to auction, which is extremely rare, it attracts bidders from around the world, including private collectors, investment funds, museums, and institutions, all competing to own a piece of numismatic history. The stories of people discovering incredibly valuable 1965 pennies are rare, but they do exist, and they remind us that careful examination of coins can lead to life-changing discoveries. Imagine going through an old coin collection inherited from a relative, or sorting through a jar of pennies that's been sitting in your closet for decades and discovering a 1965 penny that's slightly smaller than the others, with a different weight and a hint of silver showing around the edges. That moment of recognition, when you realize you might be holding something worth millions of dollars, must be absolutely electrifying. The process of having a potentially valuable coin authenticated and graded can be nerve-wracking because you don't know for certain what you have until the expert have examined it and rendered their verdict. But it's absolutely essential to go through this process because without professional authentication and grading, you won't be able to realize the full value of your discovery. The major grading services have seen it all, from obvious fakes and altered coins to genuine rarities that make even seasoned experts excited. And they use a combination of visual examination under high magnification, precise measurements, weight testing, and in some cases scientific analysis to determine the authenticity and grade of submitted coins. When a genuine rarity like a 1965 silver planchet penny is confirmed, the grading service will assign it a grade, seal it in a special holder with detailed information about the error, and return it to you with documentation that you can use to sell the coin, insure it, or simply enjoy the pride of ownership. Now, let me be absolutely clear about something important. While the valuations we've discussed today for these 5 incredible Lincoln pennies are based on real market data, expert opinions, and the potential prices that perfect examples could achieve, the actual prices realized for specific coins will vary depending on their exact condition, the current state of the market, the venue where they're sold, and the competition among buyers at that particular moment. A coin valued at $10 million in theory might actually sell for $5 million, or it might sell for $15 million if two wealthy collectors get into a bidding war. So these valuations should be understood as estimates and potential rather than guaranteed prices. That said, even if the actual prices realized are lower than the theoretical maximums, we're still talking about coins that could be worth anywhere from hundreds of thousands to multiple millions of dollars, which is more than enough to completely transform your financial situation and change your life forever. The key takeaway from everything we've discussed today is that rare coins are still out there waiting to be discovered, hiding in plain sight in old collections, coin jars, bank rolls, estate sales, and even occasionally in circulation. And the people who find these treasures are ordinary folks, just like you, who took the time to learn what to look for and then carefully examine their coins instead of just spending them or ignoring them. Every single coin that passes through your hands is potentially valuable. And while the vast majority will be common dates in average condition worth face value only, that one special coin could be worth more than you'll earn in years or even decades of work. So it absolutely pays to be knowledgeable and observant. I want to encourage you to take action based on what you've learned today. Go through your pennies, examine your old coin collections, check the change in your car, in your pockets, in your drawers. Look for the specific dates and varieties we've discussed, and use magnification and proper lighting to carefully inspect any coins that seem potentially interesting. If you find something that you think might be valuable, don't clean it. Cleaning coins destroys their value. Don't handle it excessively. Protect it in a holder and get it professionally examined by someone who knows what they're looking at. The investment of time and effort required to search through coins is minimal compared to the potential payoff. And even if you don't find one of the ultra-rare million-dollar varieties, you might discover other valuable coins that are worth hundreds or thousands of dollars, which is still a fantastic return on your time. The world of rare coin collecting is filled with passionate, knowledgeable people who love to share information and help others learn about numismatics. So don't be afraid to reach out to local coin clubs, visit reputable coin dealers, participate in online forums and communities, and continue educating yourself about what makes coins valuable. The more you learn, the better equipped you'll be to recognize opportunities when they present themselves. And remember, the 5 coins we've discussed today: the 1994 D worth $10 million, the 1992 worth $18 million, the 1991 worth $20 million, the 1983 D worth $25 million, and the 1965 worth $30 million, represent just a fraction of the rare and valuable coins that exist in the world, with thousands of other dates, denominations, and varieties that have their own stories, their own rarities, and their own passionate collector followings. The journey of learning about rare coins is endlessly fascinating, with new discoveries being made all the time, new varieties being identified by researchers, and new collectors entering the hobby with fresh perspectives and enthusiasm. You could be the person who makes the next major discovery, who finds a coin that nobody knew existed, who writes the next chapter in the story of American numismatics. So as we come to the end of this incredible journey through 5 of the most valuable Lincoln pennies ever minted, I want you to remember that knowledge is power, that careful observation can lead to extraordinary discoveries, and that the coins in your possession right now could potentially be worth far more than you ever imagined. Take what you've learned today, apply it to your own coin searching and collecting, and who knows, maybe the next time we hear about a record-breaking coin sale, it will be your coin making headlines and your life being transformed by an incredible numismatic discovery. Thank you for watching. Thank you for sticking with me through this detailed exploration of these amazing coins, and I wish you the very best of luck in your coin hunting adventures. May you find the treasures you seek. May your discoveries exceed your wildest dreams. And may the simple act of checking your pocket change one day lead you to a fortune that changes everything. Happy hunting. Stay curious. Keep searching. And remember that the next coin you pick up could be the one that makes you a millionaire. Now get out there and start checking those pennies, because your fortune might be waiting for you right now in the most unexpected place.